afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Anissa Nunez. I'm the Assistant Education Manager at ASNOA, and I will be facilitating today's session. So here with us today, we have Brendan Kaur, the Director of Business Development at the Loss Run Pros. All right, so today, if you guys have questions along the way throughout this presentation, please feel free to chat your questions in, and we're going to answer them as we go. All right, so without further ado, Brendan, go ahead and take it away, please.
Lovely. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet all of you. Anissa, thank you so much for the time, the privilege to be able to present Loss Run Pro. So we're, as I was saying, we're out of Missoula, Montana. We're a 2.5-year-old startup, which is great. And we're here to solve the loss run problem for all of you guys who maybe have issues with it. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to review 2 different versions of our platform, new business and renewals. And so first, I'm going to start with the new business. And the new business is that clunky, frustrating, automated process where you're like, the incumbent might block the market. They might withhold the loss runs. It can be a total pain. So what we're going to present is hopefully an automated solution. Now, what Anissa has at the very end, she has a sign-up form, registration, a bunch of ideas of where in which we can get you guys to be a little more efficient and a little bit more automated with your process. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Loss Run Pro, divided into 2 main sections for you guys, new business and renewals. New business, what we got here, signed authorization required. That's going to be create a letter, send it to the insured. Once the insured signs it, it goes directly to the carriers, bypassing the incumbent broker, removing the headaches. It goes back and forth, right? The incumbents, they have no interest, they don't have your interest at heart. So that's what we're going to do here today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with create loss run request. And this is the dashboard you're looking at here. And what we have is the ability for you guys as an agency to also oversee all of your loss run processes. So what we have is we're going to hit create loss run request. And this is just going to be, this isn't rocket science, right? We're just automating a couple of those clunky processes. So what we're going to start with is golf events. This is my insured. We're going to upload a logo here. And this is just because a lot of the carriers like to see it on the insured's letterhead. It's not necessary, it's not required, but it is nice. Address, city, state, who's the authorized signer? What's their title? Okay, we come down here, we select what their title is. Who can actually authorize the release of the loss runs? What's their email? All right, then insurance professional. What we have here, this says my name because I'm the user. But the nice part is whoever the user is from your guys' agency, it's going to populate with their name, because when we go to email it to your customer, it's going to populate from that name, because we certainly don't want it coming from Loss Run Pro. They wouldn't know who we are. So it's going to come from Brendan. It's going to come from Anissa. What we have here is return fax. This is your guys' e-fax number. This is what you guys want to be put on the letter that ends up going to the carriers. So this is important. It might seem silly, but it's an easy way for you guys to stay anonymous when you send the letter directly to the carriers. Now, you can also put your email in here, but it does populate on the letter. So a lot of people leave this field blank because they want to remain anonymous when the letter does get to the carriers. All right, so then we have policy information. These are the actual letters that are going to go directly to the carriers. Now, the nice part here is how many of you guys probably have a Word doc and it's going back and forth. You've got this one going to this carrier and this one going to this carrier, and you have to find and track down all the information. The nice part with Loss Run Pro, each one of these line items equals 1 letter. So what we're going to do is that we're going to be able to say, oh, you guys can't even see me. There we go. So it's going to create 1 letter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be able to say, hey, we want to add new carriers. So we can create up to 8 individual letters, but yet we only need to send 1 email for 1 signature to the customer. All right, so what does that look like? So let's pop a couple in here. We're going to say work comp. Now, our carrier list, so when I'm typing these in, I've got a couple different testing ones I'm just going to use, but our carrier list, under the global list, we have 3,500 different carriers preloaded in the system ready to go for you guys. Now, what does that mean? If I type in travelers, what you're going to see is we have 50 different travelers, offices, coverage, locations that you can select from. But then also what I'm getting to is what's called the local list. And that's over here on the left-hand side. So each of you guys as a part of your agency are going to be located at various parts across the country. So you guys can actually upload and or add any of the local carriers that you want as you're building out your own platform. So that way, in conjunction with our 3,500, it's a pretty robust list of carriers. All right, so I'm going to select the testing one because I can't send any real requests. Then I'm going to put in policy numbers, dates of coverage. Now, these two are both very flexible fields because what we know is that a lot of the incumbents, they play games, right? They don't give your current customer all the policy numbers because that way then they have to come back to them. And this way, it kind of keeps them in touch with their incumbent, right? Well, one thing we wanted to do was make sure it was very easy to use from a new agent perspective for you guys. So actually, all we require is one policy number, and then you can write comma all previous years. So if you needed 3 years, but your customer only actually has one, the system doesn't necessarily need all 3 years in order to process properly. Okay, so when we get to the second one, let's say we're going to do a general liability. Okay, so we come over here, we're going to send this one to Hartford. So as we're populating through again, under the global list, you see, and then we got our testing down here. So I'm going to select that. We come down here, new policy numbers, dates of coverage. Again, it's pretty simple and hopefully it's making sense because what we're trying to do is just eliminate the Microsoft Words and then you're printing, scanning, faxing, sending it to your customer and then trying to track down where to send it. So we have 2 letters now that we're going to go and send. We have what's called our default letter. This is just our automated platform letter that will automatically populate. Now, you guys as individual users can actually create your own letter, which is super great. And then it would just become a dropdown. So you can see I put in a couple examples. We've had people use it for letter of authorization, benefits, med mal. We've had people who are doing work comp NCCI letters. People can get creative with this because the idea is whatever letter you're sending for signature, it then ends up with the carriers. Okay, so we're going to use the default. We're going to hit create letter. And now as we do, we're going to see it takes you right back to the dashboard, which is what I was explaining earlier. So now all of a sudden we can see and track in real time, hey, we know. So if Anissa was the admin on the account or the producer, she can see that, hey, now we can see that Brendan has populated a request for golf events. So it goes in the system, it's golf events, we've got the carriers, who in the agency created it. So that way, if we had multiple users, we can track exactly where we're at. But then more importantly, as we look across, we can now begin to track it in real time. So we can see that this one hasn't been sent. We can see it hasn't gone to the carriers. So now what we need to do, we've created 2 letters, but we're going to hit e-sign request. Now we're in our second page. We're going to actually create this, create an email and email it to your customer for signature. So golf events, that's where we're going to send it. We know that. The CC and BCC, this is for you guys as an agency. This is for you guys to populate. Most people use the BCC function, again, to stay anonymous. They want to make sure that, that maybe it's BCC and the producer, or even dropping your email tag for your AMS system. A lot of people use that, so that way it drops into the bucket and it gets coded with that customer. All right, so then we have our actual email message. What do we want this to say when we're sending it to our prospect? So we have our default letter, which all of you guys as users are welcome to use, or we also have the custom email function. The custom email function over here is fantastic because what it does is it allows you guys to kind of create some quick parts, right? And again, this is just automation, streamlining little bits and pieces to help make you guys as an agency a little bit more effective. So if I select large client follow-up, right, I've created a couple. But what it does is it already preloads. It's got my email signature. It's got a preloaded email in there. So that way I'm not having to retype an email every single time I'm on here. Maybe it's a sales meeting follow-up. Again, I think everybody probably gets the point of this. But as we're firing through this, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press send request because now we've created the letters and we've emailed it. So we look back at the dashboard and that's exactly what we see here. It's been sent one time, hasn't been signed and it hasn't been sent. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up and I'm going to go and look at what this email looks like when it's coming to your customer. But first, probably one of the coolest, and it's probably maybe even one of the smallest features that we have as a platform, it's the 3-day reminder. How many CSRs or account managers are constantly calling, following up with a prospect? Hey, have you gotten that? Have you had a chance to sign it, receive it? Can you send it back to us? You just click a 3-day reminder. Now Loss Run Pro does that for you guys, right? Again, little tiny steps of automation throughout the whole deal. All right, so now I'm going to pop up here. I'm going to refresh this email so it populates back in. And you're going to see now, this is what that email looks like as it populates to your customer. Again, it's going to come from Anissa or Laura, right? Because we don't want, they're not going to know golf events. They're not going to know Loss Run Pro. So it comes in from the agent or whoever's using the system. So that way, when your customer clicks on it, here's that custom email. Here are the 2 letters. But this right here is the secret sauce of the whole thing, right? They hit e-sign request, 3 clicks of a button. So often we hear, how do we meet our customers where they want to be met? This is one process in the insurance industry that we haven't done that yet. And that's why Loss Run Pro is finding the success we have. It's because we are meeting the customers in a digital world and allowing them to go back to their lives. 3 clicks of the button, 10 seconds, automatically. Once they sign it, it goes directly to the carriers. All right, so then when I come back here, I'll refresh this and it will automatically update the dashboard. So back to, if Laura was logging in, she would be able to see, hey, it looks like that one from Brendan. He sent it to Golf Events. It was emailed, but then also it was signed on the 4th. So we can truly track real time exactly where we're at any point in this process. Now, last but not least, this is what the email will look like as it populates to your customer, to the carriers. So let me delete that one. That's not it. It's now going to populate from the customer's name, right? This is an important differentiator here because we can't have it come from Brendan or Anissa. We're not the incumbent broker. So Travelers or Chubb or Cincinnati would delete it immediately. So what we do is we have it come from the prospect's company name. So when Travelers opens an email, it's from Golf Events, right? And so that way, do not contact the current agent. Here's the signed letter. And you can see in this, right? We've got it right here on the letterhead, Golf Events, work comp. Here's the policy numbers, right? Here's the e-fax number that keeps you guys anonymous in there. Signed by Brendan. And then most importantly, at the very end, this is kind of legality, right? But how do we make sure it's accepted by the carriers? Here's our audit trail, which will verify the IP addresses of each of the users to ensure that, hey, an agent isn't signing on behalf of a prospect without their knowledge. So pretty slick, pretty dialed in. Now, how does it work? How efficient is it? So a couple things. First and foremost, letters are being signed. 81% of the time, the letters are being signed within the first 8 hours of them being sent out, which is drastically faster, right? It used to take a week or 2 just to get them signed by your customer. Okay, so that way is quicker, but then also 61% of our customers are getting loss runs back within 72 business hours. So if we think about that, and again, I can't promise these, I can't guarantee timeframes, but what we're finding is that overall, the insureds are loving the simplicity of it, and even the carriers are loving and they're receptive of this because we need a free flow of information, and we've automated it from an agency level, a prospect level, and a carrier level. Last but not least, from an agency perspective, what you do once you've gotten it, you come in here and you say, hey, we got that one, or we got that one today. So then you can truly track when you've received it. So I see there's a whole bunch of questions popping up here. Let me see if I can kind of process through there. All right, let's see.
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback on the tool. I do see a question from Ashley, and it's asking about the emails, if it's coming from their actual emails or if it's from a system that says on behalf of, and then their email.
Absolutely. Yeah, great question, Ashley. So as if you were to sign up today and start using it, it's coded to come and kind of be masked. So it would say it's coming from Ashley, but then it would actually come from Loss Run Pro. However, we can easily code it and just make that change on the back end if that's up to you guys and your guys' agency wants that. That just isn't the default, because certainly some agencies have different sharing capacities, and what they allow from third parties, but we can easily make that happen for you guys, no problem. And that's especially true when I get to the renewals section, and I'll make sure to point that out and why that's so important on the renewals phase too.
Thanks, Brendan. So we do have another question. Is there an automation to follow up on the request or mark that they have or have not received that? Or is there a second request option if they haven't been received?
I love it. Ashley, coming with the great questions. So yes, now we do, as a platform and as a company, we rely upon you guys to let us know when they haven't been received. So what we do, and that's because a lot of the times based upon carrier. Every carrier has a different way in which they their workflow differs, because some might send it to the fax number, some might send it only to the insured. So what we do is we rely upon you guys. But what we do offer is that if you guys haven't received the loss runs within 10 business days of when it was signed, so for instance, this one was signed on May 4th, right? So if we look at a calendar real quick, 10 business days would be May 18th. So Ashley, if you don't get the loss runs or your customer has not received them by May 18th, you can just email into our service team by clicking this question mark button and saying, hey guys, like I received the Travelers ones, but we have not received the Hartford ones. Can you follow up? We offer an escalation after that 10 business days where we will escalate on your behalf to track them down. If you still have not gotten them after the first escalation, we will then do a second one. But after that request for the second one, we usually require some sort of additional information like a deck page of some sort, just to ensure that all the information that was actually requested in the letter is in fact correct. So that way, when it gets to the carrier, it is matching correctly. But those are a couple additional ways. But at the very minimum, we do rely upon you guys to let us know if you have not received them, because a lot of times that's outside of the system. Okay. I don't think there's any other questions, so I'm going to move on to renewals. Agent of record. These are all, you guys all write commercial. You guys have your own commercial books. So how do we help you guys become more efficient? I love the new business now, of course I'm biased. I love it all, but I love the new business. And that's why a lot of people come to Loss Run Pro. It's for the new business because it is clunky. They want to win more business, have more opportunities at the table. The agent of record section to me is the best value prop for current activity. How do we streamline your guys' current workflow? And so what we found when we were building the platform and our focus groups is that a lot of companies have, they have large books. And for all of your renewals, it's 120 days out, 90 days, 60 days, quarterly, monthly work comp mods, like whatever it is for that policy. We found that a lot of agencies don't have a great system in place, and certainly the agency management systems aren't great either. Anissa, you're in charge of yours. Brendan's in charge of his. Laura's in charge of hers. But I don't know if Laura has sent her renewal requests, because what we found is that a lot of people say, oh man, our workflow, gosh, we shoot for 120 days, but everybody's always behind. And we end up sending our renewal requests at like 70 days, 60 days. And so we're constantly behind the 8 ball. That's what we tried to solve here. So this is an automation tool for all of your upcoming renewal requests for loss runs on your current policies. A very similar dashboard. The idea being is that, how do we share information? How does Anissa log in and see that Brendan has done all of his upcoming renewals? How do we know if Laura's done them correctly? Okay, so what do we have? All of our insureds on the left-hand side, the carriers, the effective date, the type of coverage, who created it in the system, the date it was created. And then as we scroll over, we're going to be able to see the upcoming schedule request. So if I were to click on one, what we can see is, hey, we've created one workflow for golf events that's going to go out to CNA for the aviation. Now, these are just arbitrary examples, but the idea here is that this one's going to go out every June and December for the next 3 years. So it's more of a set it and forget it tool, right? If every quarter we're sending an email directly to CNA for the same policy, why don't we just automate that? How do we simplify a CSR account manager's workload who is managing an entire book for claims and renewals? Okay, so what does that look like? We have the ability to do 2 different ways. You can import an entire schedule in there. The import function, you can mass upload up to 250 out of your agency management system. Super great, can easily dive into that more with you guys individually if you choose to sign up. To show you a little quick, kind of get the wheels turning, you can also do a schedule. This is a one-off. So I'm going to pump in golf events again. And the idea here is, again, just get the wheels turning. Same carrier list. But as I mentioned before, this is where that local list almost becomes more important. If you guys are all over the country, you're going to have different underwriters that you work with, or different underwriters that you have a great relationship with. add them into the local list because you're going to send these emails directly to that group. And so what we're doing here is we're hoping to create that efficiency. So that way it's going to whoever you've already been working with, you're only creating it once. All right, so then what we do, we put in the policy numbers again, select our type of coverage, farm and ranch. I'm out here in Missoula, put in the effective date. And then here's where you begin that custom date range. So again, maybe it's 120 days out. So what we're going to do is we just click out, let's say it's August 16th. Like as simple as that is, that's it. Okay, so let's say we also want 90 days, that's September 16th. We also want 60 days. Okay, that's October 17th. So you guys can kind of see what we're building at here, and what we're trying to create is that whatever date schedule or window schedule you're creating for the customer, it's completely customizable for whatever workflow you want. And what we have found as we've released this to various agencies is that it's actually helping agencies become more proactive throughout the year, because it's no different. You can select 90 days out, and then you can also select it 6 months later. So 6 months throughout your year process, you're getting a currently set evaluated loss run. So that way, what's coming down the pipe. Again, and it is a set it and forget it. So then what we got, maybe it's a monthly request. Again, work comp mod that I mentioned, let's just say we're going to August. You can see how they populate. Semi-annual, we come in here, we just drop them down for 4 years starting in August. This tool has been by far the most valuable to current customers, because this is hours that they are saving from their current CSRs and account managers. We are making you guys more efficient today and moving forward. Very quickly, a couple clicks of the button, we now have a workflow that's going out every August and February for the next 4 years. So let's leave that, say that's our schedule that we like. When we come down here, we have another custom email section. The custom email section being the difference is, and this is getting back to Ashley's question, these are going directly to carriers and underwriters you work with. So the messaging can be a little bit different. It's going to come from Ashley. It's going to come from Brendan. But also, we don't need a signature, so we don't need to explain anything. Hey, we just need it very similar. It's got my email signature at the bottom. Okay. We can create, or we can add any CC or BCC. We can add an attachment. Once we're ready, though, we press schedule, and you'll see it goes right back to the dashboard. Laura, you log in, you can see that Brendan is slowly getting through all of his upcoming renewal requests, and you can even check them. Hey, maybe Brendan, maybe I haven't done it correctly. Laura, you're like, bro, take a hike, you're out of here. I get fired. You assign my account to Anissa. The nice part is, though, is nothing gets lost. Everything's in the dashboard. So Anissa logs in. We now know that, hey, she can pick right back up where Brendan left off. Okay, we know that maybe, this isn't the right schedule, or maybe this is the right schedule. Okay, well, what do we know? We can change it because nothing's happened yet. These are all futures. We can easily go in and change the policy number and the carrier. Better yet, we also know that Gulf Events has multiple policies with us. So I can actually come in here and just press copy. And what's it going to do? It's going to bring up this current workload that we're working on. So Gulf Events, Farm and Ranch, schedule, right? So I can just change this and go to CNA. They have a secondary policy with us. So this is going to pop out here. Farm and Ranch, we change that again to, motorcycle, whatever that is. The date range stays the same. We come down here, our email message stays the same. Okay. Anybody we CC'd and BCC'd stays the same. Any attachments stay the same. So within just 2 minutes, we will now have created 2 different workflows for the next 4 years for one of your customers. A set it and forget it tool. So that's the renewal section. Again, we do have an import function, which I can easily get to. And that is a brilliant tool because you can download from your AMS system and then mass upload into Loss Run Pro. Now, the last piece that I will to bring it all together, a lot of people are like, great, I love it. Like the renewal section, home run, new business, great, we can start going. Is there a solution for our customers that need, hey, we've only controlled the book of business for 2 years, but we need years 3, 4, and 5. How do we get those? Super easy. We can use the renewals, again, moving forward, but we can actually just create a new request for a current customer. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, we don't want our current prospect or customer of ours to have to go back to their incumbent broker from 5 years ago. So what we can do is create 3 new letters and say, hey, this one's going out in 2016. This one's going out in 2017. This one was from 2018. We send them to your customer, one signature and they're done. No more talking to their incumbent from 4 or 5 years ago. And it goes directly to the carriers to then be released back to you guys. So that is Loss Run Pro. I know we are 1 minute over time now, but that is what I got for you guys. Any other questions, thoughts? Love it, hate it? How are we thinking? Okay, how about this? So pricing. How much success do we see in getting loss runs returned? Oh, I mean, it is hands down. It's an absolute game changer. Currently, I think we're at 92, 91%, somewhere in there, that are being received back within that 10 business days. So we do have to escalate a couple here and there, but then also what we do find half of the time once we do escalate is that there is maybe some operator error. So the numbers are a little skewed sometimes, is that maybe the policy number was off by just a tiny, by one number. But we know those carriers, they're looking for any excuse to not release the loss runs. So like, I think, we're probably more in that 95 percentile range that are getting released within that 10-day business window, but again, and we don't have any legal authority to actually do, but we do. It has been a fantastic program. It's helping people. And certainly on that renewal side, Ashley, to your question earlier, when it gets coded to come directly from you, when you send that email and that renewal request from the system, it actually comes from Ashley. And so that way, when Chubb or when Cincinnati is responding to that email, it's going directly back to you. It doesn't come back to Loss Run Pro. So how do we move forward? Okay, so Anissa has a sign-up form, website, all my contact information. It is bcore@lossrunpro.com. You can register online. However, we do have a sign-up form because through the program with ASNOA, it's normally $300 a year, but it's $275 for you guys. So that way, if we can utilize the online form, we can get that. The online version, that way it's for anybody who's not a part of the network, and that way they're paying the $300. And no, let me back up, excuse me. That is a per person. So if you have 4 producers, that's $300 per user. So Ashley, I just saw your question pop up. Thank you. I was right ahead of you. It is per user. And, now you get the benefits of both new business and renewal. But, we hope that is what we wanted this to do was to be a streamlining tool for any agency of any size, right? This can be for one of the large P&C brokerages, on a national level, all the way down to somebody who's just starting out in commercial. It shouldn't matter how big your book of business is. It doesn't matter. $275 should be an appropriate price point. Hopefully that isn't ringing any alarm bells and you guys are thinking that's a home run price point, because hopefully if you win one deal, this absolutely pays for itself instantly. And on that, we have found that 77% of our customers have paid for their investment in Loss Run Pro within the first 90 days, which is exactly the point. So I hope you guys have loved this. I hope you guys found this informative, intuitive, and if nothing else, you learned that we're here. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's in a couple months. I've got, obviously we're partnered with ASNOA now, and everybody, they've seen it, loved it, and that's why we're here. But of course, we can easily send any other kind of referrals or kind of feedback, testimonials, anything you need to help kind of maybe validate the program. No contract, it is a per year. So if once you sign up, now, Ashley, another great question. Thank you for all of these. I love them. If you guys didn't want to take part in the discounted upfront fee, you can sign up. It's $29 a month, and that is also per user. So you can do that, but there just isn't that discounted upfront that we've negotiated with ASNOA. So that's the easiest way, kind of, again, signing up online, take advantage of that discount. But of course, if you just want to try it out for a month and not sure, $29 a month. So that's what I got. Laura, Ashley, Anissa, anything from you guys?
Brendan, I did see a question. Is there any free trial opportunities?
We don't, that's kind of hopefully you can either do the monthly or then we've just, negotiated the discounted price for you guys through ASNOA. But hopefully also you've seen that, it does work. And it's been a very successful tool. We launched, for context, if to help you guys, we did launch last January to retail agents across the country. We started with 80 pilot accounts, and we now have over 1,300 users, and that's 850 plus agencies. And that's because it is a cost-effective solution, and it certainly, just bottom line, it works. And it streamlines the process for you guys in a variety of different ways, but almost the most important part of it is that it just simplifies it from your new business prospect, and it allows for them to not have that awkward conversation with their incumbent broker. That's the best part.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. Thanks again for putting this together. As Brendan mentioned, I will be sending everyone Brendan's contact information, website info, and a link to set up a conversation with Brendan. And you know what? I did have a few people say they couldn't attend last minute, so we'll make sure to get that video recording out to those and make sure that they get to see and hear about this new opportunity. And I'm very excited to share this with everyone because, as I mentioned to you, Brendan, we have a lot of people that are always inquiring regarding this matter, so this is their solution for that.
I absolutely love it. I very much appreciate it. I'm sorry that I don't even know, like it froze and then bounced, who knows? But I'm certainly glad I was able to get back in and actually make the presentation after all this work and the partnership with you guys and ASNOA. So thank you for the opportunity, and a pleasure to speak to all of you guys. And I look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we can get you guys up and running on Loss Run Pro.